Hey there YouTube, this is Brian at Grimm's Auto Service. Today I got a 05 Kia Sedona that the customer brought their own radiator in, wanted us to replace it for them. It's Saturday, Labor Day weekend. Friday we got kind of busy and I didn't get this finished for them. But I got a haircut this morning and came in and thought I'd make a video of us doing this radiator. I looked on Mitchell Pro Demand and there was a tip on there where somebody said that you had to take the AC condenser out, and there's a transmission cooler down here too that they said you got to take that out along with the radiator, where it takes an extra hour than what it says in the book. But I was poking around on YouTube to see if anybody had any good videos, and I didn't really see any that they were showing that all that stuff was any problem. So we'll make a video and see what goes. I think the first thing I'm going to do is pressure test the cooling system and verify that it is the radiator, because we didn't diagnose it. They just called and made an appointment and brought their own parts. So we'll bust out the pressure tester and see what. Here at the shop I've got the Mac Tools cooling system pressure tester. This one's got the little small Asian cap here. There's a couple different adapters you got to match it up, because there's one where it's thicker than the other. So get this adapter on there and get this thing pumped up. Let me go grab one out of my other kit. I've also got an older Stant one that used to be my dad's. I got the adapter out of that one. See if it's going to pump up. I looked inside and it didn't have very much coolant in it. This guy must have a pretty good hole in it somewhere. I'll show you another trick I do sometimes here in just a second. I topped off the cooling system and I put this old Stant pressure tester on it because I don't want to hurt my new Mac one. And if you look, there's a little hole in the back here. You can take a blowgun and gently, if you can watch the gauge, you don't want to. Holy cow! But yeah, I just barely put some pressure in there. And here, I'll move the camera so you can see. Here, I'll try to get it all in one shot. If you guys can watch, put the blowgun in that little hole and just put a little bit of pressure in there. See it squirting out past the headlight there. I'm pretty sure it's the radiator. We'll go grab the radiator out of the back of the van. Oh no! They got me a radiator from a salvage yard. Then I was starting to look, and I'll show you. There's one shiny bolt there. Well, they were going to try doing it themselves, and who knows what, they got frustrated after they dropped the first bolt. It was just laying right down there. So we'll put that one back in when we go back together. And then I noticed step one was remove the air duct. There's supposed to be some piece of plastic air duct going across the front there. That's missing. I didn't look to see if that was in the back of the van. If it is, we'll put that back on for them. So we'll get to working on this thing. First thing I'm going to do is take this plastic cover off, the little retainers that are in there. The ones, they look like little Phillips screws. What I found best is just using a regular flat pocket screwdriver. Over the years, I found these ones from the Mac man. They're made almost like little pry bar material. The only thing I think I've ever broke on them is the handles. Usually try using a actual Phillips on these push pins. Did I show the push pin on there? You try putting a Phillips in there, usually it just strips them out. Just gently let the threads pull themselves. You don't want to push down on it because then they'll just sit there and spin and spin. Get down and get underneath them and pull those guys out. Most of the time I don't mind putting stuff from the salvage yard in. You know, if the people brought it in themselves and it's no good, then you know they're gonna have to pay us to do it a second time. Or if we got the part for you, then usually we'll eat the labor the second time or eat part of it. Also, you always want to make sure you get your stuff from a, you know, like a reputable salvage yard that's going to stand behind their parts. Some of them will put, you know, 30 days, 6 months, year. I know one salvage yard around here you can pay extra and they'll even put lifetime warranty on some parts. It doesn't cover the labor, but you get a motor from them and you pay an extra $100 and you get a lifetime warranty. If it blows up, they give you another motor. Well, there's about 10 of those clips holding all that one little piece of plastic in. It says disconnect your horns. You can get them disconnected. Grab something, help squeeze those. Looks like a bunch of 10mm headed bolts, or maybe not. 12s. Hey, give me a break, it's my day off. Little diagnostic connector. Make sure you put that back up in there when you're done. These look like they're 10s though. Looks like there's some clips that hold the wire harness up here. We'll squeeze those and push them down. Just reach around and squeeze the tab and pull down on it. Let's see. There's a missed one over here. Well, now you can see the top of the radiator. See what we got to do next. Next thing it says to do is disconnect both the fans and remove the fans. I think looks like an ambient temperature sensor. The wire goes up and over the radiator, so that's going to have to come out. And this AC pressure sensor. I have to get a little screwdriver again. Flip the wires over and out of the way. Then it just said, well, pull those out, but it doesn't say anything on the instructions about this overflow tube. That's obviously going to have to be removed. Get the fans out of there now. Lay down there. Grab a different light here. It's for the long reach cordless ratchet. It's going to come in handy. He's way down there at the bottom of the radiator. Drop the bolts. There's like a little hose retainer clip. Here's, pop that loose so you can get the radiator hose back. And we're going to get out of here. There's one fan. Grab that bolt while I see it down there. Good before it rolls away. This one over here might be what they're talking about, having to remove the condenser. You can see the other radiator fan kind of goes up and underneath that AC lines and stuff. Can't even really see the bolts. I'll see if I can get them both pulled out, and then maybe we can go out this way with them. Come out the same hole as the other one. I think what I'm going to do is take the upper radiator hose loose. Looks like it was already fiddled with. Oops. those out of the way, I can reach down there, get to it. Maybe. Well, I got this one out, about ready to drop it. If it's got a lower one like the other side, let's see if I can reach around and get that guy. Close. Oh, almost got her out without dropping it. Looks like it's just got a clip on the fourth corner. This one's got a bolt. The first one just had a clip down there. We got two fans out. We go fishing again here. Let's see. Yeah, these flexible magnets come in pretty handy too. You can get them from any of the tool guys. You can just bend them however you need to get where it needs to go, and the head of it's pretty small. Well, I've got to this point and I looked at it really close, and in the instructions it doesn't say anything about removing the AC condenser or anything about the transmission cooler lines or this auxiliary transmission oil cooler. But I think, you know, if somebody wanted to spend all day trying to get 4 bolts out for the condenser to try to cheat their way out of there, I think it's just going to be faster for us. Since we have a AC recovery machine, we can suck it down and just pull the condenser out with the radiator and separate it, move it over to the new radiator, and go back together that way. So that's how we're going to do it in the rest of this video. Here, I'll give you guys a closer look at what I'm talking about. If you look way down in there, you can see the one for that dryer, but there's another one. Oh, get the light. You just barely see it down there. And then you got this auxiliary transmission cooler right there, which one of the bolts is down here from that side, so it's easy to get to. And there's one here. I'm not sure if there's another one, but the other condenser, there's one right up here, but then there's another one underneath there too. So unless you want to dink around taking the front bumper off or something, I think it's going to be easier to evacuate the AC and just pull it all out as an assembly. Got the AC machine all hooked up. In case anybody wants to know, that's the AC machine that we got. Bought that about 11 years ago when we first started the shop, and I don't think we've ever had any big problems with it. You just change the filter when it says to change the filter, and change the oil when it tells you to change the oil. So knock on wood, it's been a good machine for us. We've evacuated the AC system, but we're going to leave that last to disconnect. Next I'm going to disconnect the lower radiator hose and my transmission cooler lines. The other hose did that. I've got these hose pliers that I've had for years and years. I don't know who even makes them, but I couldn't get the other side loose either. I had better luck just using some regular old pliers, so I'll do that on this one too, I guess. If those other ones are getting worn out. Bucket underneath so you can catch all that. Get this transmission oil cooler line loose. Been on there since the factory. I disconnected the lower one first, so, and that way if you do the top one first and then the lower one, then a lot of times it'll sit there and drip on your arm the whole time you're working on it. So you learn from experience which hose is to unhook first. I'm going to take this auxiliary transmission cooler line loose. I showed you earlier there's one bolt up here. And there's one more in the front. I have to get a different socket here. Looks like that's loose now, so let's see what this radiator feels like. If we're going to be able to pull that out far enough to sneak the condenser past it. Disconnect the AC lines and give her a try. one's just got a short chunk, looks like it. Remove it fairly easy. Get the whole little short piece of line out of the way. Break it loose with something else first. Tight. And you can actually just take this short piece of AC line out, just to get the whole works out of your way. Oh, there is one more bolt down here, but for the auxiliary transmission line or cooler. After getting everything else loose, you can push it back and get down to it there. I didn't run it out far enough. What's going on here? This would help if I took the right bolt out. So I took the one holding the condenser to the radiator out. The one I said it was hard to get to. At this point I could almost take the condenser loose from the radiator and leave it in the vehicle, but I've already gone this far taking it out. Might as well yank the whole thing out, and then that way I don't have to try to fight starting the bolts down in this tight hole. Usually I have somebody help me wiggle these things in and out so you don't hurt anything. I'm up here by myself today. Dump what's left out into the bucket there. There you go. You can see we got the old one out. We just got to swap the condenser onto the new used one. I'm going to swap the condenser over to the other radiator. Take a little break there for a minute. pigment down here is starting to piddle on the ground. Make sure you can still see what I'm doing here. Oops. Helps if you pay attention to how everything's sitting here. One thing you want to do is pay attention to the length of your bolts and where they belong in your radiator, because I've seen people, or at least I've seen it one time anyway, where a guy put a radiator in and he accidentally put too long of a radiator bolt in, and then when it tightened up it poked a hole right into the reservoir tank of the radiator. That could ruin your day real quick. Twist one of these off. There it goes. I always like to snug the bolts all up first before you actually finish tightening something down, because sometimes it can pull one side down tight and there could be something different, and then it pulls down and it'll break something. Just about every part you always want to start all the bolts by hand before you even tighten any of them, and then just slowly tighten them up and then do your final tightening. Like if you tighten the first one up tight before you even start your second bolt, and sometimes it won't let you move it around enough to be able to even get your second bolt started. Chop off the tape from the salvage yard here. I was checking everything over, and one thing, there's this bracket that goes underneath the radiator that transmission oil cooler attaches to, where I took the bolt out from this side, like the engine side of the radiator, to sneak the radiator up and out. Well, the salvage yard must not have been able to get that one broke loose, and I tried turning it and it felt like it was going to break off, so we just took this bracket off of ours and we'll use the bracket that came with the salvage yard one. I'll try to, you can kind of see that bracket on the bottom side there. See how it's starting to twist the metal and everything. So we'll gently drop it back in here. Like I said, usually I have somebody help me do this. It's a holiday weekend, so I didn't want to bother anybody. before I drop it all the way into place, I'm gonna get this transmission cooler attached there. These would be some of the bolts I was talking about, making sure you put the right length ones in. You can see the difference there. It doesn't look like much, but it could be the difference between breaking your tank or not. Fun. That's why I took it off the other side, because you can at least see what you're doing the other way. There, she just dropped right into the hole. I'm gonna get my AC lines button back on there, so have it open as long as I can, or at least amount of time as you can anyway. So, got a little AC oil on there, put on the O-rings. Now I'm gonna get the AC machine hooked up to it. It can start vacuuming it down while we're reassembling the rest of this stuff. Hope you can hear the pump on the AC compressor sucking down. We'll let it do its thing. One thing I always like to do is make sure you put your spring clamps back in the place that they originally came off, because, you know, that way it doesn't look like somebody's been tinkering with it. It makes the job look a lot cleaner. Plus sometimes the little ears on the spring clamps might rub on something that's not supposed to and cause problems. So hook up the transmission cooler lines. Got my lower radiator hose. Can't see anything except for the back of my bald head. Okay. Fan put in and stuff, but I just noticed it's about 7 o'clock at night on Saturday, and we've got some friends coming over, so I'm gonna go clean up and go hang out with some friends for a little bit, and I'll come back Sunday and finish recording this, and hopefully everything will work fine. Hopefully we got a good one from the salvage yard. I won't have to do it again. Hey, we're back again. I think where we left off is we had to put the radiator fans in. I knew I was going to struggle with this one, so I didn't want to have to waste a bunch of camera time struggling putting in the bolts over here. There was one of these, I call them a J nut. It's like a little clip with a bolt or a nut on the back side of it. That was missing off the salvage yard radiator, so I had to rob it from the old one. And then the passenger side one has 4 bolts all the way around. The driver's side one, on one of them there's just a clip, so it's got bolt holes on the rest of them, but then so you just drop it down into that clip and put the other 3 bolts in. So we'll do that now. I did have to take the upper radiator hose back off to get that, or the passenger side fan in. See how bad I struggle with this side. They're just plastic to plastic, so I guess this one's aluminum, but you don't need to crank them way down and start breaking plastic. Put the radiator hose back on. had it held back with a little piece of mechanic's wire to would keep on flopping down and hitting me while I was trying to get the bolts in on this side. It's safe to move our wire harness back over. That's for our horns. Fans back in. That's other horn. It's ambient temperature sensor. Okay. Run our overflow hose. I got my AC machine that's hooked up, laying over top of it here. Those in the holders. Now we can put our upper radiator support back on. Snap those wire clips back in where they belong. It's got plastic ears and there's that rubber grommets in the top. You gotta get all that stuff lined up here. You wanna put it down and have it sitting on top of that and break your radiator when you tighten the bolts. Wires back up. Exactly sure what that bracket's for, if it's the like an anti-theft deal, so people can't reach through the radiator or the grill and grab hold of the hood release cable and pop your hood somehow. conditioning. It did hold vacuum overnight, so it should hold a charge, I hope. It's not always necessarily the case. Sometimes they can hold vacuum, and then once you put pressure on, the lines can blow apart and things like that. I'm just going to use the old air lift, or air lift, my spill-free funnel. Sorry. Luckily, I did have those problems though, because then when I was looking, I noticed I forgot to put the bracket back up that holds that diagnostic connector up there, so I don't think it would have caused any problems, but if somebody else would look at it, it'd look kind of shoddy. I'm pouring, it says it takes 8.2 quarts. I'm going to pour about a half a gallon of straight antifreeze in it first, because it looked like somebody poured water in it. It didn't look like it had very much antifreeze in it when we pulled the hoses off. So this might take a little while, so I'll just get her filled up and show you the end result here. After the thermostat opens up and burps out all the air, then it comes with this stick. You plug it. You usually still end up spilling a little bit, but put the radiator cap back on. Fill up your coolant reservoir, and while it was warming up, I recharged the AC system, so it was pretty low. It barely had any refrigerant in it when we sucked it down, so you should be happy now. He has air conditioning and a non-leaking radiator. Well, that's about it. This is all you need to do to put the radiator in a 05 Kia Sedona, the minivan. After looking at it, we might have been able to sneak the radiator out with the condenser and the fans and everything still attached and swapped everything over, but being that it was a used radiator, I didn't want to accidentally bump something and break it and have it be my fault. So hopefully everybody likes the video. Comment if you like and subscribe, please. Have a good night.